Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Glad to have you spend a few minutes of your day with me. The Trump administration posted another win with the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday. This time, the court agreed that the administration had the authority to fire the tens of thousands of probationary federal employees and do not have to reinstate them as ordered by a lower court. In another lower court action, the federal judge has ordered the Associated Press must be restored to the White House press pool after President Trump banned the wire service for refusing to adopt his renaming of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth yesterday said that the U.S. will take back the Panama Canal from China's influence as Washington tries to reassert control over this major trade route. And a Princeton professor appeared on MSNBC and claimed, unchallenged by the way, that all 78 million people, you and me, who voted for Donald Trump, are racist and couldn't bring ourselves to vote for a black woman. Didn't matter that Kamala Harris was totally unqualified. We didn't vote for her because she's black.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
It was another anxious day for investors yesterday. The S&P 500 closed down nearly 5,000 for the first time in almost a year following yesterday's volatile session and a strong morning rally yesterday had us encouraged for a brief moment. It faded as we learn more details about the tariffs. And it looks like that more of those tariffs are going to take effect. After stocks tumbled at their fastest pace since the pandemic in the last 3 days, investors showed some signs of hope earlier in the day that President Trump would possibly soften his stance or postpone the today's deadline for tariffs. Ain't going to happen. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Trump expects tariffs to go into effect while nearly 70 countries have reached out looking to begin negotiations to reduce the impact of U.S. trade policies. Market participants were optimistic this morning that we would get some sort of sign that we are moving closer to a deal. Lindsay Bell, chief market strategist at Clearonomics in New York, said that doesn't seem to be necessarily the case as we're quickly approaching the deadline and investors are losing confidence. The White House said also yesterday that it expects more tariffs on China to go into effect today. This was after China had said earlier it would never accept the, quote, blackmail nature of the U.S. To Trump's threat to ratchet up tariffs on Chinese imports to more than 100%. United States Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, said earlier that exemptions to the global tariffs are not expected in the near term. The S&P 500 lost 75.85 points, or about 1.49%, to end at 4,986. The NASDAQ Composite lost just over 335 points, and the Dow Industrial Average fell 319.58 points, or 0.84%, to 37,657. So, look, it's not just you and me who's seeing our 401ks go down. President Trump, who, of course, fired the first shots in this global trade war last week, he's seeing the results as well. Forbes said that his net worth was $4.7 billion prior to Liberation Day. Less than a week later, Forbes estimated at $4.2 billion. So that means President Trump has lost over $500 million since last Wednesday. His biggest loss comes from his most valuable asset, Trump Media and Technology Group, which declined 8% over the last 3 trading days. It hit its lowest, that's his lowest price since last October. His stake is worth $2.2 billion, or was $2.2 billion. It's now just below $2 billion. So, we're all watching this unfold, and we all have to have confidence that it's going to come back around, and it will. The Supreme Court yesterday sided with the Trump administration and upheld the mass firings of tens of thousands of probationary federal employees, granting a request for an emergency administrative stay on a lower court order blocking the firings. Now, you may recall this. Soon after the president's inauguration, and within the first week of Doe's going to work, thousands of federal employees, probationary federal employees, were let go. Of course, the Trump administration was sued. A lower activist federal judge, a district judge, ruled that the Trump administration could not fire these probationary federal employees as they had done. The Supreme Court yesterday saying, well, actually, they can. The Trump administration can, in fact, fire federal employees. The court said in the order the district court's injunction was based solely on the allegations of the non-profit organization plaintiffs in this case. But under established law, those allegations are presently insufficient to support the organization's standing. The majority of the high court ruled that the plaintiffs, these nonprofit organizations who had sued to reinstate the employees, lacked standing to sue. Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson would have denied the application. They voted against this. In their final brief to the Supreme Court, government attorneys argued that lower courts overstepped their authority by ordering the reinstatement of probationary employees last month. This battle stems from, of course, the termination of about 16,000 probationary federal employees since President Trump took office. This prompted this wave of lawsuits from Democrat-led states and former workers. Now, probationary employees are particularly vulnerable to termination because they don't have the civil service protections granted that full-time federal employees do, which is a good thing. Federal employees, because of their civil service protections, are almost impossible to fire, whether they're doing their job or not. And that's a problem. So Trump realized that he could fire the probationary employees, and that would be a good starting point to reduce the federal government size. Justice Department lawyers warned that forcing the government to rehire these employees would create what they called chaos across the various federal agencies affected. They've also said that the firings were tied to poor performance, an allegation, of course, that the dismissed employees are disputing. Last month, a federal judge in Baltimore ordered the Trump administration to reinstate the probationary employees. Chief Judge James Breder also directed the administration to return within 7 days with a list of the affected employees and an explanation of how the agencies were complying with the reinstatement order. Of course, the Trump administration protested that. They filed their appeals. The Supreme Court ruling, the plaintiffs argued that the Trump administration's decimation of the probationary staff had caused deep and lasting harm to key federal agencies. At the Department of Veterans Affairs, already plagued by what the employees called chronic understaffing, the layoffs have already had and will imminently continue to have serious negative consequences for those who rely on its services, the plaintiffs wrote. See, they're wanting to scare people that veterans won't get their services they deserve. very similar. The Forestry Service. Remember all those Facebook posts that you saw? A photo of a person claiming to be a forestry employee who had lost their job, their dream job. The plaintiffs argued that cuts to the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management have already harmed and will continue to harm the ability of respondent environmental and outdoor organizations to enjoy and protect a wide range of federal lands and resources. The plaintiffs, represented by the American Federation of Government Employees, argued that the terminations have already caused significant disruptions across the federal government and have impaired these agencies' ability to carry out their critical functions. Look, if you can't fire federal employees, how do you ever reduce the size of government? You can't, can you? And that's the problem, and that's what Donald Trump recognizes. And kudos to the Supreme Court for supporting him. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part, because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Before we move on from talking about some of the legal affairs, a federal judge yesterday ordered that the Associated Press has to be restored to the White House press pool. Now, remember, President Trump banned the wire service for refusing to adopt his renaming of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. He kicked him out of the press pool. This ruling from District Judge Trevor McFadden, who, by the way, Trump appointed, ironically, requires that the White House return the AP's access to the Oval Office, to Air Force One, and other limited spaces whenever those spaces are made available to other journalists in the White House press pool. McFadden wrote, under the First Amendment, if the government opens its doors to some journalists, be it the Oval Office, the East Room, or elsewhere, it cannot then shut those doors to other journalists because of their viewpoints. Now, the problem I have with this is being in that press room is a privilege. It's not a right. And I get what the judge is saying here, but somebody has to make a decision who's in the press pool, because everybody can't be in the press pool. If I read the judge's order, then does that mean that they have to let me in as a radio host, as a podcast host? Does that mean that I could just show up at the White House, get credentialed, and they'd have to let me in? It makes no sense. The president should be allowed to choose who he's going to have in that press pool on a daily basis. So we'll see. I don't know if the Trump administration will appeal this, if it's worth appealing. I mean, the Associated Press has been in the press pool for decades. So I imagine they'll let it go. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. Also in legal news yesterday, we've talked a lot the last couple of weeks about Judge James Boasberg. He's the district court judge who tried to stop the Trump administration from using the 1798 wartime law to immediately deport Venezuelan nationals. Remember, he tried to stop the airplanes that had already taken off and had already left the country. Well, the Supreme Court handed down a decision yesterday, another win for President Trump. In a order published yesterday morning, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg admitted that there was no reason for him to continue with his hearing. He had a hearing scheduled yesterday to decide whether or not he was going to hold the Trump administration in contempt. And there was a lot of speculation after the Supreme Court had ruled on Monday whether or not he would go through with the hearing. Now, personally, I kind of suspected he might. I thought he might use it as one more chance to grandstand. But he decided that he would not. He published an order that announced that the previously scheduled yesterday afternoon hearing would be vacated in light of the High Court's ruling, which determined, again, among other things, that the appropriate venue for such proceedings is the Southern District of Texas, where the plaintiff that's subject to the potential removal are currently held, not in his district. And this may stop some of these other district judges from making some of these rogue decisions. It may stop some of the plaintiffs from judge shopping, because that's what they did with Boasberg. The 5-4 Supreme Court ruling established due process protections for migrants, including the right to appear in court before they're deported, but it has to be in a court that has jurisdiction from the area in which they're about to be deported from. Boasberg ordered that plaintiffs in the case must file a notice by April 16th indicating whether they believe that they would still have a basis to proceed on their motion for preliminary injunction in the D.C. court. If so, he said they must propose a briefing schedule so the case can be reviewed in the D.C. court. I suspect all of this will just go away. But at least Boasberg had the sense to cancel the hearing yesterday. Speaking of illegals and deportation, the Department of Homeland Security and Internal Revenue Service, they've come to an agreement to permit ICE access to taxpayer information to locate illegal immigrants subject to deportation. The Trump administration filed a memorandum of understanding late Monday afternoon with the court to create guardrails and a process for ICE agents to request to the IRS to further investigations of criminal illegal immigrants who have failed or refused to leave the United States 90 days after a judge has issued a final order. Treasury Department spokesperson told the media the Internal Revenue Service and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement have entered into a memorandum of understanding to establish a clear and secure process to support law enforcement's efforts to combat illegal immigration. The statement said the basis for the memorandum of understanding are founded in longstanding authorities granted by Congress, which serve to protect the privacy of law-abiding Americans while streamlining the ability to pursue criminals. So a senior Treasury Department official said that the illegal immigrants have been given due process but have overstayed 90 days post a judge's removal order. The MOU outlines a process to ensure that sensitive taxpayer data information is protected while allowing law enforcement to pursue these criminals. A draft agreement reported last month by the Washington Post said that it would limit ICE to confirm the addresses of illegal immigrants who have final removal orders. So basically, if they're looking for somebody, they can ask the Internal Revenue Service for their last known address to help them find this person and pick them up and take them, give them a flight back home or from wherever they came. The deal would allow ICE to submit the names and the addresses, and the IRS would then confirm their last place of residence. This is the old, you can run, but you cannot hide. Continuing today's show, I've kind of gotten behind on text messages. Thank you. Can keep them coming. You can leave me a message, too, on the MyPillow message line. Just call 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code JOEY when you go to MyPillow.com, and you'll get the very best deal Mike Lindell has to offer you. And speaking of some good deals, boy, Mike has some great deals. You know, the big box stores have once again canceled his order for sheets. So he's going to pass those savings on directly to you. You're going to get the Giza Dream Sheets at wholesale prices when you use promo code Joey. For example, the Giza Dream Queen Size normally is $139.98. When you use promo code Joey, you get it at wholesale prices for $69.99. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Use promo code Joey. Same thing with the Piquel Percale queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale sale price, only $29.98. You can get king size for $34.98 as well. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio specials, and you'll see all the other specials. You can get a great deal on the standard MyPillows as well. And I promise you, these Giza Dream Sheets, you will not sleep better. They are so comfortable. You're going to love them. So go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, and keep those messages coming on the MyPillow message line. Jennifer writes on the text line, "Hey, Joey, it's Jennifer. I've wondered since January 20th how long Trump could keep winning, as he likes to say, until Trump haters could interfere. And to be honest, it's been longer than I expected. Not only did we get Trump in the White House, we got Elon. I didn't see that bonus coming," she says, "but two things. Like gambling is a game of Vegas, politics is the game of Washington, and the players should remember that at all times. Number one," she says, "somebody's head should have rolled because of Signalgate to protect Trump, bad optics. Followed by number two, Elon campaigning in Wisconsin, putting on a show, giving away $2 million, terrible optics, and the Republican lost. They should have learned their lesson after the chainsaw spectacle. Respectfully speaking to the wonderful and amazing Elon, stay in your lane. No politics. Find and expose corruption in the government. That's why you're there." Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate your comments. Ace writes, "Good morning, Joey. Look, Elon is the antibiotic to everything viral in this country. The virus hates antibiotic and sometimes makes the person not feel well. It's all about what's good for us. Elon is exposing the corruption that we all knew was in place. I said it before. Washington needs an..." Well, I'm not going to say that. "Washington needs an enema. Musk is it. The left hates him because they are all about constipation instead of the Constitution." Thank you, Ace. Texter says, "The American people are focused on the social media regarding the work of Doge. It may or may not have been a wise decision on the Wisconsin primary. Doge is downsizing the government agencies, not the public sector. The liberal Democrats are using this tactic as their way to retaliate. Wisconsin voters will see the outcome of changes to their state government. Pretty sure they will not like it. That's my opinion." Well, thank you. I appreciate your opinion. Tony says, "Joey, until the media stops the fear of the tariffs, media will just get worse because the media wants his tariffs to fail and not be successful." Tony, we know that. The media wants Trump to fail miserably. Albert writes, this is the short version. "Woke Democrat federal employee lies to family about being laid off. A friend of mine received a call from a family member who claimed to have lost her job in the first round of Doe's recommended cutbacks. After telling family members this, she stopped communicating with them. Many worried family members reached out with offers of financial support if needed. No reply from her. My friend just found out that this family member lied about being laid off in order to promote her woke agenda against President Trump. Democrats can stoop so low that they would be great at playing limbo. President Trump, keep on dozing and fighting for real Americans." Appreciate that. Your text messages are welcome as well. Faye writes, "Joey, these anti-humans who have all the time in the world to protest have got to know that when a country imports more than it exports, well, that country can't survive. Our small towns in South Carolina were alive and well until Smarty Clinton installed NAFTA. Now I don't know how folks living in these small towns can survive. Clinton, South Carolina, is considering a neighborhood of 600 new homes. Where on God's green earth will they work? The plants and mills have all closed. Makes no sense to me, but not much that government does make sense to me anymore. Joey, please continue to make sense of this nonsense." I will try my best, Faye. Texter says, "Joey, as a truck driver, it's frustrating to me when I hear about we're going into a recession. The trucking industry has been in a recession for 2 years now. Every week, trucking companies are filing for bankruptcy." Well, hang in there. We need our truck drivers, and we appreciate what you do. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth yesterday said that the U.S. will take back the Panama Canal from China's influence as Washington tries to reassert control over this major trade route.
"The United States of America will not allow communist China or any other country to threaten the canal's operation or integrity. To this end, the United States and Panama have done more in recent weeks to strengthen our defense and security cooperation than we have in decades. that includes our meeting today and announcements to come. Our relationship with Panama, especially our security relationship, will continue to grow in the months and years ahead. Our relationship is growing in part to meet Communist China's rising challenge. China-based companies continue to control critical infrastructure in the canal area. That gives China the potential to conduct surveillance activities across Panama. This makes Panama and the United States less secure, less prosperous, and less sovereign. I want to be very clear. China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal. And China will not weaponize this canal. Together, we will take back the Panama Canal from China's influence. And we will do this along with other capable, like-minded allies and partners. This is what peace through strength looks like.
Yes, sir, it does. Now, Panama has repeatedly rejected the Trump administration's claims that China effectively controls the canal as it operates two major ports on either end of the waterway. I mean, that's kind of a giveaway, isn't it? If you have a major port at the beginning and you have a major port at the end and you're kind of controlling, I think you control the canal, don't you? The Central American nation withdrew from its 2017 Belt and Road Initiative agreements with Beijing earlier this year in a signal that Panama has chosen to side with the Trump administration in this somewhat of a geopolitical spat. Secretary Hegseth laid out a litany of joint exercises, some operations, and just a general presence of the U.S. military in and around the canal in a move to counter China. The defense secretary said that China-based companies continue to, quote, install critical infrastructure in the canal, which gives China the potential ability to conduct surveillance. He added, this makes Panama and the United States less secure, less prosperous, less sovereign. And he said he wanted to be clear that China did not build the canal. China does not operate the canal. China will not weaponize the canal. The Chinese embassy in D.C., of course, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Look, I don't want us to end up in a war over the Panama Canal, but the Secretary of Defense is right. I mean, we have to show, this is another example, like we're showing China that we're not going to bow to their threats over the tariffs. We also have to show China that we're not going to bow to their threats of something happening in this region. Just because they have built these major ports on either end of the Panama Canal, we can't cede control to them. Now, look, shame on us for giving the canal away like Jimmy Carter did anyway. That's when someone should have stepped up then. Jimmy Carter should have never given the Panama Canal away. I don't know what he was thinking. This kind of gets back to my conversation earlier this week about politicians, typical politicians, as opposed to Donald Trump. Most politicians, like Jimmy Carter, wanted to be liked. And so that's why he gave the canal away, to make people like him. Donald Trump doesn't care if people like him or not. He doesn't care if these foreign governments like him. He just wants the American people to like him because of the policies that he enforces, the policies that he puts into place. So he could care less what the people of Panama think of him. He could care less for what some of these shipping companies think of him because of the canal. He just simply wants to protect our interest, and that's what he's going to do. Ultimately, he's going to do what is best for you and me, what is best for the U.S. And protecting that canal is a very important thing that we have to do, and Trump understands that. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Wrapping up another show, welcome in all of you racist voters who wanted to destroy our republic because you didn't want to elect a black woman last year. That's what Princeton Professor Eddie Glaude thinks about you. He called out voters who supported President Donald Trump in the 2024 election during an MSNBC interview, telling host Nicole Wallace that those 78 million people voted for someone who wants to destroy the republic because they didn't want to elect a black woman.
Right? I don't know what it's going to take for 78 million Americans to deal with what motivated them to make this choice. And the choice that they've made, we have to just be honest, is to literally throw the republic into the trash bin. And this is just one example. The tariffs is another, right? They made the choice. Now, what was behind it? We have to grapple with it, because it's the snake, it's the beast coiled up in the heart, the bosom of the country, as Frederick Douglass said. And the fact that they are doubling down on this shows you what kind of human beings they actually are.
Say more.
We chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who's more interested in retribution, who's more interested in grift than in democracy. And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. So to read that, to actually explicate that, is to say we would rather destroy the republic than for that to have happened. And until we grapple with it, there's no amount of protesting I could do. There's no amount of resistance that could come into play to actually force 78 million people to grapple with what motivated them to put themselves in this position.
Now, Mr. Glaude and Ms. Wallace were discussing the Supreme Court temporarily freezing a lower court order that required the Trump administration to return by midnight a Maryland resident, Kilmar Garcia, who allegedly was wrongfully deported to El Salvador last month. The government has acknowledged that Garcia's removal from the U.S. was an administrative error. The professor continued, we chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who is more interested in retribution, who is more interested in grift than in democracy, and we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. He thinks that everything centers around race. Wallace agreed with Glaude, didn't call him out, didn't even challenge him, as you heard, with the host saying, you're right in that 78 million people voted for someone who wants to shred the Constitution. He further argued that discrimination was the center of Trump's support, and by way of our association, us too, that we as Trump supporters discriminated against others, people of other races, people of color, people that look differently from us. He was critical of Trump supporters in December, a month after President Trump won decisively over Kamala Harris. While he was speaking to Wallace on her show in December 2024, he insisted that hatred, greed, and selfishness were at the center of Trump's MAGA political movement. He said, so we have the collision of greed and hatred right in front of us, and that's at the heart of the Trumpism, of MAGAism. It's always been greed, always been selfish. It's always been hatred, and now it's in full view, he said. He's also back in November said that Trump had won because whiteness was under threat. Now, he did receive a little pushback from MSNBC host Stephanie Rule when he said that.
So there's this sense, right, that whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't what all of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me. Right?
Eddie, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and it.
They
was
voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted felon, a guy who said we can grab the pea.
I think that a lot.
They voted for this
listen,
guy.
I'm not defending it. But I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying, life's not fair, I'm not doing well, my son's still living in the basement, I can't seem to get a job, I don't like the status quo, I'm voting for something else, and he was the person.
I love you to life,
I love you,
but I do not believe that. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that. They voted for a crook, a person who they know is stealing from, just doing everything to undermine the so-called country that they love. And then they're telling us the BS that it's economics. We know that's not true. We know it's not true. And we got to raise our kids in this. Oops.
You're allowed.
Go ahead.
You're allowed.
People like this clown just can't allow themselves to admit that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were utter failures. That, yes, as Ms. Rule tried to explain to him, people were hurting. People were tired of the awful prices that we were having to pay for things, the inflation that we suffered under Joe Biden. And this is the problem, because nothing is going to convince Eddie Glaude, who is a black activist, that Trump is not racist, and that every white man and woman who voted for him, you and me, is also a racist, and that we hate our country because we couldn't make ourselves vote for Kamala Harris, who was and is totally unqualified to be president of the United States. She wasn't even qualified to be vice president of the United States. She was only chosen by Joe Biden to be vice president, you'll recall, because he promised his party, the party activists, the people who were responsible for getting him the nomination to begin with, people like James Clyburn from South Carolina, he promised them that he would choose a black woman as his vice presidential running mate. That's the only reason Kamala Harris got the job. It wasn't because she's some scholar who had all of this experience in government. It wasn't because she's very intelligent, because she's not. She can barely string together a sentence. She became famous because of her word salads. It's because she is a black woman, and that's what Joe Biden promised his party. And just because Biden was that stupid didn't mean the rest of the company was. So when people like this guy, when they denigrate the hardworking American people who were ready for a change, who were tired of identity politics, who were tired of being told that they're more than two sexes, who were tired of all the gender crap that we had to put up with, who were tired of all of the DEI, people getting jobs, in some cases taking their jobs, not because they were qualified, but because they checked off some box, because of the color of their skin, because they identified it as something. People were tired of that. People were tired of this leftist regime taking us into a place that nobody wanted to go. But he's never going to understand that. I don't know why. He seems like a fairly intelligent guy. You would think that he could understand this. But for some reason, he thinks because he's a black man that this is the position he has to take. And he can't seem to get out of his own way for his own good. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.